Real anxious to bring you this and excited about bringing you this documentary from the Rio Grande Valley. This particular area primarily will be based on New Mexico. And we see these writings along the Rio Grande River. Ancient Paleo Hebrew. I feel that I should have understood the translation long before actually it came into mind, and there's a little bit of a story connected with that. Perhaps I'll share it with you through this documentary. Our people traveled many of the channels, the rivers, through the south, the southwest, and the central United States. We find these markings, and up to this time, it has simply been stated that they were boundary marks, and that's still a very strong possibility. And we find them in Central America, in South America, but primarily as well along the Arkansas, the Cimarron, and the Rio Grande River. I have no doubt in my mind, and I submit this for your thought and consideration, that ancient Paleo Hebrew, I'll say ancient, it will be interesting to go back over some of the documentaries. First, I suppose we would want to say, well, can we document that ancient Hebrews were in the Rio Grande Valley? And I would say, yes, that's very easy to document. For you will remember just south at Los Lunas, south of Albuquerque, New Mexico, you will remember the Ten Commandments, written very clearly, but with just enough human error to make it very natural, knowing it wasn't a put-up job. And being able to date them, we had the Ten Commandments there. We're going to be sharing that with you also. Hope you enjoy this documentary. It certainly is a blessing to understand the messages left in stone by those that traveled this great nation. Let's take another look at the Ten Commandments as they are written on the stone near Los Lunas, New Mexico. No doubt, ancient Paleo Hebrew, the Ten Commandments, letting you know that they were followers of Yahweh, for the sacred name is inscribed even within the Ten Commandments. A company of men leaving a fort on top of this mountain, the foundation of that fort, not built like anyone but the Hebrews would build a fort. And with the ancient Hebrew giving no doubt with the Ten Commandments that, yes, Paleo Hebrew was used up and down the Rio Grande Valley. The stone you're now looking at is less than 150 miles from the area that the travelers would had to have traveled to come to this point to spend a year or two from the looks of the remains on the top of this mountain. There you have it, documenting, yes, they were here, using the alphabet of Paleo Hebrew, ancient Hebrew. How exciting to know when our Father stated He would scatter His children to the north, east, south, and west. Certainly the west was a part that we can document, yes, they were here. Let's take another look at the Newark Holy Stone. Another copy of the Ten Commandments found here in the Americas. This particular stone found beneath a huge pyramid. A pyramid built of stones from the land there. And beneath that huge pyramid was found this Newark Holy Stone. The letters being made up of a few modern Hebrew letters as well as ancient Paleo Hebrew. The Ten Commandments, again, found to the northeast near Newark, Ohio. Yes, Paleo Hebrew and modern. So this, in a sense, dates the stone to a student of the Hebrew language. Because the fact that both were used, there would be very few individuals, especially at the time the stone was found, that could read both alphabets, especially a combination of the two. No, it's no forgery. Ancient Paleo Hebrew was used, and used considerably in the Americas. Okay, let's take another look at the Bat Creek stone found near Lawton, Tennessee, in a grave where 9, what I believe to be priests, were buried. Our translation of this stone is so precious, and as much as it was amazing when I found the Masoretic note at the bottom, the majestular Va. I want to call your attention to this Va. It's an important letter. Notice the staff with 2 bars across the top and a point indicating that it is the 6th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, as well as to the Masoretic scholar, it unlocks the translation itself. I want to call your attention again to the Resh, which is opposite, and opposite for a very special reason. The letter means the lion, and pointing east or pointing right always means the lion of the tribe of Judah. I would have you remember Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 10. And it reads, the lion of the tribe of Judah, let your voice be the polka that brings these ministers of fire back to our Father. How precious the stone. Again, I call your attention to that majestular Va at the bottom of the picture, the 2 bars on the staff. Remember it well. Okay, I want to teach you about 5 letters from the Paleo Hebrew alphabet. As you know, each of the ancient alphabet, the letters, have a meaning all of their own, such as the Va we looked at earlier, and look at to it again, means, among other things, Joshua or Yeshua, which is to say in the Hebrew tongue, Yahweh's Savior. As well as other things. The Alif means an ox, for the letter itself in ancient Paleo looks very much like an ox's head, and Bet means house. What I'm telling you is that each letter, as well as having a numerical value, has a meaning as it stands alone. I want to teach you these 4 or 5 letters, as we will see them then on stones as men traveled up and down the various waterways of this great nation. Okay, let's take the first letter. We'll make it Dalit. Dalit. It is the 4th letter in the Hebrew alphabet, and Dalit stands for door or passageway or entrances or exits, and of course it is the letter that signifies the tribe of Judah as well. But note the triangular shape. It's important now. The triangular shape of Dalit. And then we will take the next alphabet, and here we have the sacred letter Va, a part of the Hebrew name. The 6th letter in the Hebrew alphabet. It communicates the spiritual with the material. It connects, if you would. It means Joshua or Yeshua. And of course the tribe was Naphtali for the entire meaning. Va, that sacred part, one of the sacred parts of the name. You're going to see Va used considerably. And then we come to Tate. Tate being the 9th letter in the Hebrew alphabet, and it stands for a place of shelter, refuge, truth, security. A dwelling or shelter is near, is what it means. When you see this cross, it also means the union with man and woman, and as well as other meanings. But I think that is sufficient. Think of it, shelter is near, or dwelling is near. And then we have Mem. Mem, drawn as usually, will signify water or fluid, and get this, it can even signify the firmament between man and God. So when you see this mem at the top of many writings, and you have, it's just that we haven't put it in place. Today, in this lecture, we're going to look at that different. The firmament or the water, the fluid. Found in a desert place, it can also mean water is near. Shemek. Shemek being having the value of 60 in numerics. It can mean tower, fortification, fortress, or shelter. It even with counting circles of the tree to tell the age, the trunk. It means, now listen carefully, seasons, cycle, journey, or travel. The people that made this mark used it primarily for the sense of we are travelers, we are traveling, we are on a journey. And then the cycle or the measurement thereof usually would follow Shemek in these particular drawings, saying how many moons or days or whatever the case might be that they had traveled. So we see that in Hebrew letters we have more than just a letter, but there is a message. I am talking about ancient, very ancient Hebrew. You might say the beginning of the alphabets and their meanings, the beginning of communication between these people. Ayin. Ayin being a circle, we would call it in English, would we not call it an O? Of course, it doesn't matter the size of Ayin, its numerical value is 70. And it means the eye or the center of understanding. It can even, or confusion, clear, keen vision, view, discern, or to consider. It also means any opening of the body, can stand for that, but it means the eye or the ear, the eye that can see and the ear that can hear. And usually this will be one of the first letters saying, understand what I'm saying to you in this hieroglyph. Understand the message that I want to communicate with you. You see, Ain used a great deal in the central United States in relationship to the ancient Hebrew writings left in the Americas. Here we have the letter Qaf, the Q primarily, and its value numerically is 100. It signifies a priest cap or a crown, kingdom, sanctification, holiness, brain and spinal cord, progression from doctrine to the crown of righteousness. So this letter, the reason we explain it is you will notice that in Olenfala's tomb at the cap, as it will be drawn to your attention, Qaf equaling 100 in numerics. Okay, let's take some of these letters now. Ain, which means the eye, look with understanding, understand the message. Va, Va meaning Joshua, I serve the living God. Shemek, I'm a traveler, we've been journeying, and on this journey we traveled for Va, meaning numeric 6 moons it could be, and Mem above the top. There was firmament between man and God, or the water that was above. And firmament also always looking to the heavens, especially, for you have seen this sign before on a stone, Olenfala's tomb, within his tomb to be exact. And here you have the stone that is in Olenfala. Olenfala meaning teacher or prophet. Jeremiah, having traveled to this country, it is believed by most that this is in fact Jeremiah's tomb. Now let's pick up the Mem. The Mem at the top, meaning the firmament above, that firmament between God and man. And then now let's go down to the diagram. We have Ayin, the circle around, and then at the top we have Va, Joshua, Yeshua, I serve. Always that is heavenly, as you read from the top to the bottom. And then 3 bars, Shemak. I am traveling, and we journeyed here. We journeyed here from where? no doubt what he would always consider the homeland. And then below that another Va, which means count the cycles, count the journey, the numeral 6. 6 moons, 6 months. What does it really mean? Well, when we see these figures, these forms, I think we begin to translate the stones and the ancient Hebrew, letter by letter, with each letter carrying its own meaning. Now, let's take a moment and let's look at the stone here beside this one. We have at the top here the letter that we taught you, Qua, which means a priest or a king priest. The Qua with the Ayin at the top overlapped by the other Ayin, making this a Qua, meaning a king or a priest of who? Va, of Joshua, that is to say our father. That would be the next 2 bars below the Quaf. And then you have 3 bars following that, Shemak, we were traveling, and then a Va below that, again the numeral 6, meaning we traveled for 6 moons to come to this place. I think it's fascinating. Our Father's Word, as it was traveling, as our people travel throughout the world. We see inverted halos, this sort of thing over this entire picture, which is another lesson for another time. But at this time, the ancient Paleo Hebrew in Ireland.
4, 3, 2.
Here we have the Ayin. That means look with your eye and observe and learn. Qua, at the very top here in Olenthala's tomb, meaning a priest or a crown. Va, meaning our allegiance is to Yahweh's Savior. Shemek, we have been traveling, and then traveling where? Another Va for the numerical value 6. 6 moons, very possible. That's the average time, I suppose, that at the time of his journeying that it would take to travel from the Middle East to Ireland. Ireland, where this tomb is found. How precious it is for the ancient Hebrew alphabet to be brought into play here in this tomb of Olanthala, thought by many to be the tomb of Jeremiah. Olanthala meaning the great teacher, the great master teacher, so to speak, and certainly he was. We have here the letter Tet, which is to say shelter is near, Tet or Tate, whichever you wish. And let's see how it goes. Notice the letter Ta is removed, and see in each one of the sections you have a delete, which means a door. A door. And of course here, Tate, which means shelter is near. How precious it is that the ancient alphabet is able to carry a message and to communicate directly with man and deliver that message. Where did it expand from here? Well, I feel that the people that carried this alphabet later switched primarily to Ogham. Why? The alphabet was more complete, whereby rather than allowing one letter, such as Aleph that you see in your extreme left-hand upper left of the screen there, Aleph, which means ox, and notice how familiar it is with the ox head. There, Todd, there, delete the door, and then you have Tate or Tet, which is to say shelter is near, one of the meanings of the word. A way of communication, you bet. And when people travel the world, and we find these markings throughout the world, certainly they carried the message. We thank our Father for that ancient Paleo Hebrew alphabet. We'll be using it along as we continue in our documentaries, and we will continue your growth in knowledge concerning the meanings of these specific letters that allowed the travelers, the ancient ones, to communicate even with this modern generation. We thank our Father for this. Is it not strange that we find the same thing here in America? Up and down the rivers of this great nation. I'm going to let you do some translating on your own now as we go into some of the stones that we have found throughout this nation. Let's look, if we may, at one of the signs found in the proximity of the letters in New Mexico that we have discussed. Here you have a turtle. I think if you use your imagination, His little old tail right at the bottom of the picture, two hind legs. We see his front legs and see that old turtle head there at the top. But what do you see in the middle? You're learning. You should be able to tell me. That's Tet or Tet. And what is it that Tet means? It's made up of Ta, that's the cross, and the circle Ayin, which you could say here, open your eyes, look and understand. With the door present, we have shelter near. And a turtle is also pointing to the line of travel, to that shelter. Does it work? Your answer is yes. In the field, it works. Therefore, the communication is complete. And listen, let me tell you something. In, say, 400 years BC, if you were traveling in an area that was foreign to you, and you were able to pick up a sign such as this and see it, hey, you would feel a lot better than you would to read one of these big freeway signs that states lodging is here. Has man changed all that much? I think not. When a man travels the various freeways and interstates, he reads the signs. And is it not ironic, have you noticed of late, that lodging again has almost gone back to a delete? You know, the same old sign. What's new under the sun? Our food, our camping, all by sign. I mean, have we regressed? No, we're simply continuing that has always been. One picture saying more than one word could produce. That picture indicating, even in modern traveling, that you have lodging ahead, you have food ahead, you have a rest stop ahead, and these signs are a relief to the traveler, even of today. So there's nothing new under the sun. Now let's look at another example in this same area. Here is a beautiful eagle, and yes, there are eagles present in this area. And what a beautiful eagle it is. Notice the head. And where is the head looking? Well, look at the body itself, the back. What do you see there? Ayin. Ayin with the Ta in the middle, making it a Tut, which is to say, there is shelter near. And what does an eagle symbolize? It's a bird that is a great hunter, a great fly-up. So the hunting in this area was exceptionally good. There was good hunting in this area always, primarily because of the water that was near as well, that water being the Rio Grande Valley. This place, again, the field is the only, and I repeat, the only place you're going to be able to check a language out. Was there shelter near this location? Absolutely. Some of the only caves are in that, now I wouldn't, probably, yes, some of the few caves in the area marked, and you are directed to them. What does that prove? That proves that what we're saying is accurate, that it is correct, and it was the signpost of that year gone by when weary travelers, not when we jump on a jet as today and zoom from Brownsville, Texas to Albuquerque in a matter of an hour or so, but where it took months to travel up the mighty Rio Grande. Months and a lot of hard labor to get to this place. And to see this indicator that there was shelter near from storm, from danger, from the very elements themselves, elements that could kill if you did not have shelter. And here in a language that only their kinsmen could understand. Do we have that alphabet? Well, how about you? Are you a kinsman? Ayin. Do you have eyes to see and the knowledge to understand? Tet. There's shelter near, comfort, and a word of communication from an old friend, one that has passed this way long ago, helping you to find that shelter, that comfort, that warmth of shelter that is near. Now, delete, there's the door. Enter into that door of knowledge and understand the simplicity of people, of their travels, of their language, of their alphabets. Oh, I wish I could say that we understood all the meanings and the communications that have been left for us on stones, for the stones speak. And you know something? There's only one way that you can truly, really understand it, and that's to put yourself in the position of the travelers using the language and the alphabet and or the signs that they used at that time. I really wonder, maybe in eons to go by, if the Lord should linger, and people drive down or travel down this old ancient freeway, expressway, and there's a sign, and it's a TP type, meaning dilute, the door, even today. Will they say, what did this mean? Or if they see lodging in another form, food, if they see crosswalk, will they understand our language of today? I think so, because why have we changed even a wheelchair sign for the handicapped? Why? Because one sign, one hieroglyph can say more than a lot of words, because it conveys a meaning. No, you must think as men think, in the simplicity in which they think. Have men changed? Not really. They haven't changed, and there is nothing new under the sun. I thank our Father for the privilege of knowing that the solution, that is to say, in using this ancient alphabet, has been translated now, and in the field itself it works. You know, it was very exciting this past month in preparing this documentary when the understanding came to this one. Knowing that I should not say anything, and knowing that until I went to the field and actually tested the interpretation, that it would not be proof to this mind that we had actually discovered the old method of communication using the letters of the Paleo alphabet. Well, I suppose that many people in the science of translation will understand, because we should have understood it long ago, knowing especially that the Ten Commandments were also in Paleo Hebrew further up the Rio Grande River than even where this documentary is being made. But thanks be to the research of others gone by that we are able to now finally understand those messages that are written in the stone. Here we have an eagle. You can see the wings here. It is a kind of a damp, rainy day here in February, so you'll have maybe a little trouble, and we'll show you a better shot taken at a different time on this eagle. Now, right in the center of this eagle, right here along the body, you have a tet. an ancient Hebrew letter, leaving within this another ancient Hebrew letter. I'll just say it in English, a D, which means there is shelter near. But with the eagle looking towards, we'll give you a shot here just in a moment where he's looking at, means primarily to a traveler that there is shelter very near. And certainly in this area there is shelter, bearing out that fact. Here you see where the eagle points, and there have been many inhabitants. Obviously, the petroglyphs and the pictographs are absolutely plentiful on this particular mountain range. Coming up in the last 1/8 to 1/4 mile, there have been at least 3. Scott, what do you call the corn? Is there a special name where they...
well, they're mortars is what they are. They're basically holes in the ground in the bedrock, rather, about this big around that they would put their corn and grains in, and they had another rock, which was a pestle, that they would just pound in the rock and it would grind up their corn. And another possible use for them was for water catchment and water storage. They're about 1 foot deep and about 4 to 6 inches long. And there's several of them here in this canyon here, and in the surrounding hills around here. You find them pretty plentiful. There was people living here and grinding their corn and carrying on their everyday life. We have back in this, behind us in this canyon back here, there's a old cemetery, and over in this direction we have some signal fires and an old stone building that was either a shelter or a gathering place. And we also have a place not 1/4 mile or 1/2 mile from here where they gathered up their stone, red type, flint type stone that they used to make their artifacts from, their arrowheads and tools. And there's also caves around here where they had shelter. All right, here we are in New Mexico again, and just going to point out a few other aspects of the life that was led by the travelers through here. This doesn't have all the earmarkings of a totally permanent settlement, but there are signs here, such as this hole in the ground as it looks. What it actually is, it's a food processing mill used by the Indians that throw their grains in that hole there and grind them up into food stuff such as flour and porridge and different ways of preparing their food. We also have here some temporary shelters. Off in the background there's there's caves and overhangs that would well accommodate anyone who is looking to get out of the rain or the weather. We also have a cemetery or a burial ground north of here that has a significant number of burials and I think there's both the native inhabitants and also some of the travelers, the Spanish that came through here. There's some writing in Spanish that says it's a burial ground, and we believe this is kind of a waypoint for travelers on their way north as far up into the Rio Grande Valley and on up into Colorado. And they've left their signs all over here, and petroglyphs and pictographs and the tools they use to survive. We also have here water holes. It's a good place here where the water catches in the rocks, and they would use these water holes and catchments in times of drought because they would be the last places that would hold any water. We have the crew out here. Everybody's looking at petroglyphs and enjoying themselves. We're a little wet here today, but normally it's nice and dry here in New Mexico to enjoy yourself if you ever want to come down and visit us.
At the same time, I'm going to introduce to you some of the crew we have along with us at this time. And we're going to swing around. As you all know, Scott, who's sitting on this stone right up above me. Just below Scott, you have Ruthie, our own Ruthie from Shepherd's Chapel. And back behind me, we have Clark. How you doing, Clark? no rodeo rider and man of America. He's reminds me quite a bit of my own younger days. And then, of course, our pilot that we have with us this time, Charlie, how you doing? All right, and we got a little weather coming in yesterday, a little bit, didn't we? And hi, Charlene. Charlene's giving me my count here. And as we climb these mountains and bringing you this information, I hope that we can appreciate the hardship of years gone by of people traveling, and yet at the same time a hardy people, no doubt, that wondered this great nation America. When we see this ancient Paleo Hebrew found in this great Rio Grande Valley, and it's only one of the peoples that were through here. Hey, before this is over, I hope that we're going to be able to take you in a little more into what's known as the ancient people here. I think that's right, isn't it? The ancient ones?
That's correct. The Anastasis.
The Anastasis. There is a story in this Rio Grande Valley that it would take years to tell. This is part of it, where we concentrate and focus on ancient Hebrew. And as we begin to better understand not only the writings left by them, but the Egyptians, the North Arabians, many travelers into this, and certainly we never want to forget about the natives of this nation. And then when we use the term native, what does that mean? Where even did those original natives come from? Did they come across from Europe? Did they migrate across from Alaska on down through Canada and here from Asian countries, Polynesian countries? Who knows? A lot to work with and a lot to work on. And I'm glad that occasionally we were able to give answers as well as showing you simply that they were here. And I hope that you will enjoy this documentary where we look and concentrate on ancient Hebrew in the centrals of America. Okay, I want to talk to you just a moment about another stone that we found in this area. I think it's a fascinating stone. There's much recorded here. It's not very far from the eagle that you have or will observe with the shelter near. And there is so much that can be said about it. Let's see, with the background that you now have, how much you can pick up from the very stone. Let's take a look at it. Let me give you the layout of where this stone is situated. It's very difficult to take a picture because it's back in a crevice. And whoever beat this into the rock earned it the hard way. Now, I want to point out to you, if I may, the aeon, the large aeon. You'll see it here, okay? A large aeon circle, which means, do you have eyes to see? And then you will notice a shemak, a bar with the 3 crossbars within the aeon, which means we have journeyed. Now, a very interesting thing. Count the bar marks at the base of the stem of shemek. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's difficult to make all 9 of them out, but they are all that clear, but it goes back into a crevice where that you can hardly... We have been journeying for 9 what? 9 moons? Well, it's very possible because it's a long way from Brownville down in the Gulf of Mexico up to this particular place. And you want to know something else? I think there's a possibility that we're beginning to see how that this people switched these Celts, the Celts that used this method of writing, the Shemak, the Aeon, in the tomb of Olymphala, later switched to Ogam, that is to say, using straight lines to deliver a message and even breaking it into an alphabet or the sounds of the language which the Celts spoke. are you looking, I'm just asking now, I'm not making a statement, is it possible that you're looking at one of the beginnings of Ogham? I'm not saying it is Ogham, but those 9 marks, it was a lot easier to make a straight line than to draw pictographs. Therefore, Ogham. Is it possible? Well, I don't think it's out of the bounds of reach that when they wanted to say more, that they would soon grow to Ogham and begin using Ogham and break away from the letters themselves. There's only so much you could say that way, whereas they could deliver a specific meaning with the Ogham language. Is it possible? Well, that's likely. But then I want you to note something even stranger than this about this picture. We've been traveling that far, but look at this. Let's take the Gulf of Mexico. Bear in mind we're in New Mexico, south of Albuquerque. This being Brownsville that we're now pointing to, the great mighty Rio Grande goes up inland, up between Mexico and New Mexico, comes just past El Paso and makes a turn to the north, up into the very area where we are now. Were they able to determine their geographical location with that accuracy? Now, if you were to lay a modern map with air photos, it wouldn't fit perfectly, but you might be surprised as to how well it would fit. Yeah, it's what it says. We've been traveling. It took us 9 moons, and I'm not too sure that the river itself is not the direction that they assume they went, that they traveled. And how amazing. So let's recap this stone just a little bit. The large AN with the shamak in the center of it. We are journeying, we are traveling for 9 seasons. 9 seasons we have traveled. And the line that I state is, could it be that this was one of the ways that Ogham began? Using the lines past, and then that great river that would bring them to this area. In from the Gulf of Mexico up to El Paso, and then north up in toward Albuquerque, the Rio Grande River. Well, think about it, and I think it's interesting. And this stone found in that same geographical area, that area that the ancient ones, that is to say the travelers from Europe, that left the ancient writings at Los Lunas, New Mexico. How precious it is. Now I'm going to be showing you another stone here in a moment, and I think I'm going to share with you how I finally was awakened to the alphabets being used and the interpretation. And the strange thing is that the understanding did not come from New Mexico, but rather on another documentary. You'll remember the one we did in southeastern Colorado, that we went there, and on that great signature rock, there was a drawing that just knocked my eyes almost out of my head. I say that as a figure of speech, naturally. A stone that held the key, in this mind it did anyway, to the interpretation of the stones that are marked up the Arkansas. You see, these are found all over Central America, and now we know. All the way down, joining with that area where now they think that Solomon's gold mines were located down in the tip of South America. You still find these types of markings. You want to see it? You want me to share that with you? Here it is. This unlocked in this mind the key. Notice the AN first. You're familiar with it, the huge circle. And notice the shamak inside the AN. But is it not strange that this writer was so proud of the va, that is to say the staff and 2 bars, that for him he places God above everything, and therefore he put the va above. And when I observed this Hebrew, ancient Hebrew va, Yeshua, then the formula came together. How mysterious our Father works, that it would help this student of our Father's work begin to understand and explain. Let me show you something else very strange. The Arkansas River comes off of the plains. I want you to go to the extreme right part of the drawing. At the stem of the Va. Off of the plains comes the Arkansas. It travels following that bottom line up into and across the plains, Oklahoma, up into Colorado, and makes a stem up into the mountains. Shamak, we've been journeying, and again we see almost the identical that we observed. Some people might call that a ship. Well, be that as it may, it's possible. But that is to say, the ark would be the keel of a boat, meaning we traveled here by boat. And Va is our God, that is to say, Yeshua, Yahweh's Savior. Ancient, yes, the Anointed One. That's what it signifies. This one person that had enough love in his heart that he did not make Va a part of the stem in Aeon, but he stood that staff proudly to the side. And you can almost read his mind. I love my Father. Nothing shall be placed above Va, Yahweh. And here we have it. And it unlocked in this mind the riddle and the secret that actually works in the geographical locations to shelter, to direction, and so forth. What a pleasure it is, and how wonderful our Father works. And you might say, well, isn't it great that you could translate this? Friend, you can. Haven't I taught you now that whereby you yourself can go out and read the stone? You see how difficult it is? I suppose it was embarrassing when I first understood the meaning. It was so simple that with that knowledge already in my mind, I should have read it a long time ago. Well, better late than never. Better late than never. The travels of the Celts, as well as other people that carried this alphabet. I want to talk about, for just a moment, dates now. Let's talk about when the ancient alphabet was used. The ancient Hebrew alphabet was used before the captivity by Babylon, which historically we can date by Babylonian history or God's Word. It doesn't matter. They're both the same. But let's even take Babylonian history. It was about between 400 and 450 BC. That's documented, and the double witness, of course, is the Word of God, dated by the year of the kings. We were taken into that captivity, and you'll remember that Nebuchadnezzar, meaning Nebo, the learned one, Nebuchadnezzar. His name comes from it. He was a great scholar, believe it or not, and he enjoyed schools of learning, and he had many of them. What was the first thing he did when he took Daniel and some of the children of Judah, the most advanced ones, the sharp ones, let's put it that way? He put them in school so they could learn the tables, so they could learn the alphabet. And following that captivity, which lasted 70 years, we begin to use Chaldean and the modern form of the Hebrew letters, Aleph and so forth, called by the same name, but as modern day Hebrew is shaped. We found that from say 400 to 350, we saw a mix of both the modern and the Paleo Hebrew alphabets as they were utilized in the Middle East or the world in writings of one form or the other. You might call to mind the Newark Holy Stone. Had both. So that fixes the date. It had to be after 400 BC. that the Newark Holy Stone was placed in its position. Now, who used the phalo only? And that's what you find in the hieroglyphs we've been discussing here. The 10 tribes that were taken in the Assyrian captivity were never introduced to the Babylonian alphabet. They only had the ancient phalo. So they would have used that alphabet naturally even longer than, longer? I don't want to use that term. They used it past the year 400 BC, which we would be counting down. They could have used it and did use it all the way up to the time of Christ, let's say. Though they did not know that Yeshua would come at the time he did, but the word passed on the fact that the Anointed One would come. Therefore, the Va, being symbolic of our Father God, Yahweh, in that ancient language, would be prevalent in their writings. So it leaves little doubt, and the year would had to have been sometime after 600 BC, and it could have been any time from 600 BC up to probably, let's say, 100 AD or 200 AD that we could find these writings. But I would think more likely somewhere around 300 to 400 BC. The utilization of the alphabet, the expertise with which one of the travelers that had to go through this very area and no doubt took shelter in this place would later travel on up the Rio Grande River and in Los Lunas, New Mexico, would scribe using the entire Phalo Hebrew alphabet the 10 Commandments. Those 10 Commandments that were instructed, that Moses was instructed concerning. Those 10 Commandments were later placed, the tablets, into the Ark of the Covenant. And they were to carry those 10 Commandments with them wherever they went. Men memorized, women memorized those 10 Commandments. They were the instructions from our Father, and to receive blessings from Him, it was important that He was held foremost, or you did not receive those blessings. So I think we can see and we can better understand. Recapping just a moment, Jeremiah's tomb in Ireland, or Olin Falas, I will say that because we have no absolute proof. However, circumstantial evidence heavily points to the fact that it was Jeremiah, because this Olin Fala also had a scribe, and his name was, I'll just say, Baruch. Well, Jeremiah had a servant, Baruch, too, Brek. These travels, I feel, are, to me, in my mind, it's not even up for grabs. It was Olin Fala, the great teacher, Jeremiah. To see that language taken by him, which was used by him, and that it would migrate throughout the great Atlantic, around Newfoundland, down that coast, around the tip of Florida, and up into, even if you would, the Gulf of Mexico, and then come up into the Arkansas, the Cimarron, and all over Central America. What travelers they were. The theory of Solomon's mines in extreme South America will also add to this. How precious. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed, and I hope that you have learned from this alphabet, this ancient alphabet, when you're walking in the hills and you find a stone, that you yourself will be able to do the translating. It's very simple. It's as easy as driving down I-40 and seeing the rest stops or that shelter is near. There's nothing new under the sun. It's just that man must relax and understand the simplicity in which God works and in which people think. God bless you. I hope you've enjoyed this documentary.